In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of American Black and White. Before I introduce our guest, I would like to do our Black History reflection about Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams stands as one of the greatest medical pioneers in American history. Born in 1856, he rose from humble beginnings to become a trailblazing surgeon, educator, and institution builder. In 1893, he performed one of the world's first successful open heart surgeries, a feat that reshaped the possibilities of modern medicine. But Dr. Williams' legacy extends far beyond the operating room. He founded Provident Hospital, the first Black-owned and operated hospital in the United States, creating opportunities for Black nurses, doctors, and patients who were denied care elsewhere. His work was rooted in excellence, equity, and access, principles that continue to guide community-centric leadership today. Dr. Williams proved that when Black professionals are given the tools, the training, and the trust, they don't just participate, they innovate, they build, they transform. Tonight's guest, Nicholas Ivey, stands in that lineage of service and community advancement. His work in public engagement, transparency, and civic trust echoes the same commitment to uplifting people, strengthening institutions, and ensuring that communities are seen, heard, and valued. Now to introduce you to our guest. Welcome to another powerful episode of American Black and White, where we explore stories, the leadership, and the lived experience that shape our communities and our country. This platform is built on truth, accountability, and the belief that when we understand each other, we can build better together. Tonight, we highlight a leader whose work is often behind the scenes but deeply felt across the entire city. A leader who understands that community engagement is not just outreach, it is relationship building, it is trust building, it is the bridge between government and the people it serves. Nicholas Ivey is a communicator, strategist, and public servant who has dedicated more than a decade of strengthening connections between institutions and the communities they represent. His work in Stonecrest reflects a commitment to transparency, collaboration, and meaningful engagement, the kind of leadership that moves cities forward. This conversation is about service. It's about purpose. It's about the power of communication to unite people and elevate communities. And it is about the responsibility of leadership in a time when trust is more valuable than ever. Let's dive in and let's welcome Mr. Nicholas Ivey to the stage. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you're very much welcome. How are you and how are things going?
Pretty good. Can't complain. There's been a lot of, we have a leadership turnover right now. We're going through a leadership change. So there's been some policies that are being changed. So that can affect some things. But overall, it's been going pretty good. Able to implement some things.
So, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we get into the show?
No, I just want to say my name is Nicholas Ivey. I'm a native of Georgia. I'm from McDonough, Georgia. When I knew it as a kid, it was a rural town, but now it's truly grown into a true metropolitan of the city. So it's a pleasure to be with you all tonight, and look forward to the show. I'm excited.
Yes, sir. So let's dive in. And what I like to do first is we're going to talk a little bit about you. I would like to get the audience to have the opportunity to know a little bit more about Mr. Ivy before you became Mr. Ivy. Um, can you tell us what early experiences shaped your interest in communication and community engagement?
Well, that's a great question. I would say the earliest experiences I had was during my time. I attended Alabama State University, and during that time, I decided to major in marketing because I always enjoyed getting the word out about things. I've always been a people person, and the earliest interest I would say that kind of shaped my interest in government communications was I had a friend. He ended up being my frat brother. Had a friend that they said he had just won SGA president. This was 2013, and he said, "Hey man, I want you to get involved in the SGA." And I said, "SGA? I didn't have any interest in that." So he said, "Yeah, I want you to be one of my senators." So I ended up doing it, and I actually thought it was really cool. So from there, I was a senator my first year, moved on to being the attorney general of the SGA. Then I went from vice president to president. So that was my earliest experience to really propel my career in public service. So it transformed to me from just being someone that was interested in marketing and getting the word out about things to actually shaping public policy.
So, with that experience, what were some of the things that you learned, not only about what it would be to think about public service, but public policy? What are some of those things that you learned in that experience that you are using today?
I would say that one of the first things I learned is it takes two to make a relationship work.
Mhm.
Because when you're a student body president, you automatically think that you start to get a big head. You start to think, remember that, forget that you're just a student as well. So you still need administration to get things done.
Right.
So you can't, uh, be rude to administration. You can't say slick things to administration. You have to maintain good relationships. So I would say that was the first thing that kind of helped me with that. Is something I really learned. Hey, you gotta have good relationships. Second thing is you have to listen to what people are telling you. You don't always want to base all your decisions solely on what others think. You always do have to have a mind of your own and provide strategies and evidence to support your position. But you have to listen to what your constituents are saying because people's voices absolutely matter. And the main thing about people is people just want to be heard. As long as a community or people are feeling like their voice is at least being heard, they're more apt to be more involved. So there's a lot of things that SGA really taught me. But I would say the main thing would be relationship building that helped me now.
So, who were the mentors or influences that guided your professional path?
Yeah, so great question. So I would say, first of all, I would start with my family. My father and both my stepfather play a huge role. My stepfather was Don Ash was the EMA director, emergency management director for Henry County for over 30 years. So he was someone that really played an integral role in propelling my interest in government as well. I will always tell me things, but until you get older and start to realize, hey, him telling you things, you really start to listen to it. Those were my first earliest role models. Then when I got to college, I was able to mentor under the mayor at the time was Mayor Todd Strange. I was able to talk to him. Also, I was a part of an organization called Unite that was basically a mentorship organization to where it was men from around the campus. So it will also be local leaders in the area, various Montgomery leaders, community leaders, and they would just talk to us and tell us things that we need to do, professional etiquette, wearing a shirt and tie, always making eye contact, um, being respectful, being courteous. So it is important that you find a mentor. And even now, I'm much older now. I still find myself needing that mentorship because as a lifelong learner, you're constantly learning. You're always seeking to get better. You never want to feel like you know everything because we always can still learn something. I learn something new every day. So I've had plenty of mentors in my life, and throughout when I handle various situations, I can hear their voice speaking to me.
Oh, wow. So, how did your upbringing prepare you for leadership roles?
Yes, so it prepared me in a numerous amount of ways. My mother and my father definitely taught me various things about school. First thing they said is, you have to get education. You cannot get to where you want to be, son, if you are not serious about your education. And if you're not going to take your education seriously, no one else will. So they taught me to be a very respectful young man. They taught me to care about my appearance because they said, son, before you even open your mouth, the first thing people are going to look at is your appearance. So it's important that you carry yourself with that dignity and respect. My dad told me that, son, a leader wears his pants up, a follower sags. So
Oops.
if I ever see you sagging, you are a follower. So that's something else that taught me that, he said, that's not cool to do that. It may look cool now, but it's not. And those are the things that, you hear your parents saying, but as you get older, you're like, hey, I really appreciate them telling me those things because that upbringing definitely contributed to being who I am now.
Oh, wow. So, what values have remained constant throughout your journey?
The values that have remained constant throughout my journey, I would say, is first of all, going back to relationship building. The thing is, it's not just enough just to be a nice person. You have to genuinely treat people with respect. And the reason for that, I've learned two things. First of all, you never celebrate the downfall of a person. Secondly, you always treat people great on your way up because you'll never know who you'll need on your way down.
Oops.
And people should never forget those two things because those are the two values that I hold near and dear to me. Um, so those are two things. So always being respectful, always being courteous, always being a listening ear. If someone needs to talk to me, hey, I'm a phone call away. I'm more than willing to give somebody my time, my effort. I'm willing to hear out any opportunity. So the main thing to me would be a person that is kind, generous, and respectful. If a person has those three values, they will go far in life.
Mm. So, can you tell us what challenges did you overcome to reach this point in your career?
Some of the challenges I faced were first getting out of school because one of the challenges I had being a marketing major, a marketing graduate, I should say, was when I left school, it was challenging for me to find a legitimate career in my field that provided consistent income. Because at first, what I was running into were these opportunities that were, hey, if you do this, you can get this, or once you do this, you can get to that. So that was very challenging for me. And one of the biggest regrets I had in school was during my time I mentioned I was SGA president and vice president. So during those summers, I was trying to make sure everything was ready for the upcoming school year, such as the homecoming concert, etc. So I never got a chance to get an internship. So that was something that was challenging to me because if I would have had that internship experience, that would have helped me either find a job with that company I internshiped with, or it would have been a little bit more easy for me to say, hey, I had this experience. Now, I did have some work study opportunities, but that's different from a full blown internship.
Mm.
So that was some of the challenges I faced, but I was able to finally get my breakthrough in government with the Cobb County government in Georgia, and that was it. That was what really got me there. So the main thing is relationship building because it is what you know a lot. Now, some people say, "Oh, it's not what you know; it's who you know." That can be true to a certain extent, but it's not totally true because a person can only get you the opportunity. You have to once you get the opportunity, you have to be the one to fully walk through the door. So that will be the main challenge I had was getting into my field right away.
So, with that, can you tell us, with those challenges that you were talking about that you faced, how did the resilience help you to persevere and get over that?
Great question. The perseverance is something you have to have. You have to be resilient. You can never give up. Throughout life, you'll run into challenges, you'll run into obstacles, things you don't necessarily feel is fair or is justified, but you can never give up. For me, it was the desire to want to be successful, to want to build a life that was worth having, worth living. Especially, as I, begin to start get married, begin to start a family, I definitely want to make sure that I can provide the best possible life for my family. Especially for children, because children don't ask to be in certain situations. They don't, so you want to make sure you can provide the best thing for them. So what I would really say is the desire to want to be successful. And if a person doesn't have that, then you aren't going to be able to be resilient because you have nothing to fight for.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So, how did attending Alabama State University shape your worldview? Go Hornets.
Oh yeah, go Hornet. So it's always a great time to be a Hornet. So what shape? I would say Alabama State helped me see the real world because growing up, I had it. We weren't rich or anything like that. We were a middle class family. I had a grandmother that was Dr. Cecilia Floyd. She was a prominent educator in the McDonough community, Henry County community. My grandfather was the first black principal of Stockbridge High School, Samuel Floyd. So I came from a very prominent family in the community. And I was able to be blessed to have certain amenities. I had a car, we had a pool table, we had certain things like that. So when I got to Alabama State, it helped me see the real world that, hey, everybody doesn't grow up like this. Some people have a lot of people have different outlooks on life. Doesn't mean that their outlook is wrong. It's just how they were raised. So it helped me look at the world from a realistic standpoint. And I would say the way people see things is the way they become. So in order to change how a person is, they first must change their perspective on how they see things. So that was really what Alabama State did for me, was that it helped me prepare for the real world in sense of, hey, Nicholas, in order for you to build these relationships, you have to understand that everyone isn't going to think like you. And just because they don't think like you doesn't mean that they're wrong or something's wrong with them. It just means they have a different outlook on life. And it helped shape my leadership style because I like hearing various people's perspective on things. I personally feel like when you have a team that comes together and puts their heads together, you get the best possible outcome, because my way isn't always the best way. So if you have people that give different outcomes, you can get the best solution. And I would say that's what Alabama State really opened my eyes with.
So, what personal qualities do you believe have contributed most to your success?
First thing I would say is professionalism. It's important to anyone can talk a good game, but are you actually going to back it up when it matters? It's kind of like playing sports. Someone can talk. Oh man, I'm a score three on you. I'm gonna cross you up. But then when you get on the court, nobody does anything. So the important thing, the important thing is professionalism. It's important to be punctual, be on time. You can miss opportunities in life by being 3 minutes late. You
Yes.
can miss opportunities in time by being 3 minutes late. So please be on time. If you're supposed to be at something at 8 o'clock, be there at 7:50. Be there at 7:45. That way, it's better to be way early than too late. So that'd be the first thing, is to be professional. Now that you have the professionalism in place, it's important that you master whatever it is that you're going into. So if you want to be, let's say, a communications professional in government, you need to master that art. Learn the various things. Take some Photoshop classes, some Illustrator classes, learn various public relations initiatives, learn how to write a press release, learn how to make graphics. Get the best you can in what you're trying to do. If you're an IT professional, get your certifications. So the important thing is, once you have the professionalism, you got to have the knowledge. You cannot have the professionalism yet not possess the knowledge needed to perform the task you're trying to do. So now that you have those two things, now you have to execute, because you can know everything all day, but if you're not going to put that to use, then everything you learned is in vain. So the three things that I would say that help me be successful: professionalism, knowledge, execution, and those three things will help you be successful because they help me be successful.
So when it comes to being that perfect example for your kids, what are some of the things that you tell them about your journey to continue this legacy of success that you're building?
The first, thank you for that question. Yes, the first thing is be your own person. If I know you may look up to me, some of the things I'm doing. You may want to be like me, and that's totally fine. I can help you get there, but I want you to find the best thing that interests you. If you want to be as long as it's nothing illegal, I would say please do whatever you put your mind to. If you want to be a painter, you want to be an artist, you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, put whatever you want to do, put your all into it, and you're not going to quit unless you can change. You can definitely change your mind. The second thing is be careful of the decisions you make, because one mistake can ruin your entire life. And something like such as, let's say you get caught, with some drugs or something, smoking weed or something, you get caught with that. Now this is on your record. And while I understand the reason for having records, that can be forever punishment because it's something that follows you. Yeah, people can be rehabilitated, but stuff like that can be forever punishment because when people run your record, they're going to see that. So it's important that you make good decisions. And third thing is you're going to do something. If you don't want to go to college, okay, you're going to join the military. Okay, if you don't want to join the military, you're going to go to a trade school. Be an electrician, be a plumber. You start your own business with that. You have to do something that's going to set you up for success. But the important thing is you find whatever makes you happy, and then you chase that, and whatever makes you happy is not going to feel like a job because it's passionate to you. So those are the things I want to instill in them. Of course, as a father, you want them to be a continuation of you, but I want them to understand that you don't have to be just like daddy, but you do have to be successful in your own path.
So, then just think about, I want to ask you this question because you mentioned, of being from a prominent family, and, just what life was like. So you already know what legacy means. With that being said, how do you try to, with all the advice that you've not only given to your kids, but now that you're out establishing your own legacy to continuously connect to your family legacy, how do you guys continue that? What are you telling them about the legacy part of living?
Yes. So the important thing is they're not. Unfortunately, my grandparents are no longer with us. They've gone on, so they won't have the opportunity to meet them. But what they can learn is that by me passing on these stories to them and telling them about these people, that they can understand what they came from. And when you understand what you came from, that can really help you. Like, hey, wait a minute, this is very much bigger than I am. Because, for example, in my example, I had to remember that, hey, people know who I am. When I worked with Henry County government, there was some people in there that were former students of my grandfather, so they knew who I was. So it's important that you never know who knows who, and this is a very small world. So people are going to know each other. People are going to talk, and you always want to make sure not everyone is going to like you, but you always want to make sure that people at least can respect you, and majority of the people have nothing but good things to say about you. So the important thing I want to make sure they understand is legacy is not also remembering what you came from, but it's also passing down what they taught you. So some of the things that my grandmother instilled in me, my grandfather instilled in me, I want to make sure that I pass that along to them, and that will help continue the legacy.
Mm. So, what does service mean to you on a personal level?
So on a personal level, I would say service to me means putting putting your on a personal level, I would say service means assisting others to make sure things are done for them. Um, it can personally, because when I hear the word personally, I think of myself, but when I think of service, I think of a selfless act because you're wanting to make sure that when you service a community, you service a person, you're putting their interest or the community at large interest above your own. Because there are certain things how I want to approach something. But if your constituents are saying, no, Nicholas, we like for it to be done this way, you have to take in consideration what they're saying because this is their community. They're the ones that pay taxes here, and they're the ones that have to live in it. Like now, while I work in Stonecrest, I do not live in Stonecrest. I live in Lovejoy. So um, they're the ones that actually have to live the decisions we make. So we definitely want to make sure that residents are feel like their voices are being heard. Because when a person feels like their voice is not being heard, they're going to withdraw. They're going to say, okay, whatever, you got it. They're going to completely shut down. And that's not what you want when you're providing a service. You definitely want people front and center engaged and caring about what's going on. So self service to me personally would mean a selfless act of ensuring that your constituents' needs are met and obtained.
So, how do you stay grounded while working in high responsibility roles?
That's a great thing because I actually my head was actually hurting leaving the office yesterday. So the important thing is to find something a healthy, preferably healthy thing that's going to help you escape. So whether that be you like to play video games, whether that be you like to read, whether that be you like to go to the gym, which is something I enjoy doing. I really enjoy exercising and working out. So you need to find something that's going to help you escape, whether that's spend time with your family, your wife, your husband, whoever. You have to find an escape because if you can't go home and think about things like I was just having a talk with somebody about this the other day. In the 90s, it's like this is the era before the internet, before cell phones. So like when you left work, you could actually disconnect and leave work at work. But it's like now notifications never really stop. You're still gonna get emails, you're still gonna get phone calls. So the important thing I would say is to find something that helps you relax. You know, whether you need to go get a massage or something that's going to help you relax, preferably healthy. Now, I emphasize that that's going to help you decompress because that's important for your mental stability. And once you get mentally drained out, that's when you kind of lose yourself. So you want to make sure you stay mentally all the way there. Your mental health comes before everything. People try to push themselves so hard, and I get people really want to work hard and want to do things, but your mental health comes first. If it's getting to the point where your mental health is off, something has to change. And also another thing, take time off. Please take time off. That's something I try to do too. When I don't have anything, because there are slow parts of the year, I'll try to take a week off. And that'll help me mentally decompress, and then I can come back and perform at a high level. So you never want to feel like you're operating at 30%, but yet you're still coming to work. At least take some time off, then come back and get recharged.
Well, that's easier said than done because a lot of people like to put themselves in the work in which they do. Now, when it comes to that decompression, and, as you're talking about, I definitely understand that because I am one, I have to decompress every day. I'm not going to lie to you because it's really something as you say that because your mental health is really important. What are some things that you can tell our audience or some of the younger people that's coming up like yourself that are future leaders, what are some of the things that they should really take serious when we're talking about that mental health perspective? Because becoming that's something that's actually coming to the forefront as to a lot of people are now having issues from not really decompressing.
You're absolutely correct, and you're absolutely correct because that is a huge problem in our community in 2026 in modern times is mental health. I would say the first thing would be acknowledging an issue is there, acknowledging that something isn't right with you mentally. You shouldn't be ashamed of it because we all have something that affects us. That will be the first thing because some people like to say I'm fine or nothing's going on, but internally something really is. So the first thing is acknowledging that internally you're admitting to yourself, hey, I need to talk to somebody about this. Secondly, you need to find somebody you trust or something you trust to really let it out. You don't need to hold stuff like that in. So what I mean by someone or something, either if you have a significant other, your parents, your best friend, somebody, whether you need to call a hotline and talk to somebody anonymously, you need someone that you feel like you can trust to let it all out. That's gonna not judge you, but let you vent and say, "Hey, I just need to let this out," or something. So if you don't feel comfortable talking to anyone, get a diary, get a journal,
Mhm.
and just daily write out, hey, this is what happened today. You'll feel much better doing that. And the third thing going back is find something that can take your mind off of it that can help you escape. If you like to draw, you like to sing, you like to play an instrument, you like to go for a run, you like to work out, lift some weights. You have to do something that's going to help you decompress. And that's a big part of mental health. Because, excuse me, if you're just going to talk about it, that's going to help, but it's not going to fully alleviate you of that mental health. You have to find something that you're passionate about that can help you escape. So that would really be my main advice would be you have to acknowledge there's a problem. Secondly, you have to find someone or something you trust, and you have to find some kind of hobby that can help you alleviate some of that stress.
So, what is one lesson life taught you that school never could?
Ooh, I would say one lesson that life taught me that school never could is that the real world doesn't care about your feelings. The real world doesn't care. So um in school you're taught, various subjects such as math, reading, history, which I feel like is a very important subject, various sciences, but you're not really taught about life. Like, you're taught those subjects that'll help you with skills in life. Like, of course, you need, to add, subtract, when you start paying bills and stuff and managing, money. And also, you move into leadership roles and, you got to do budgets. You got to know that. But it doesn't teach you about life. Like, it doesn't teach you that um, one mistake can cost you everything. It doesn't teach you that you have to have those relationships. There's so many things that only experience in the real world can teach you. Um, Nobody's gonna care that hey man, you don't have something today. If you don't have it, you don't have it. It is no concern. And something here's one thing that expanding off of that your friends, sometimes people think, oh, I can just call my friend when I have something going on, they'll help me. Your friends got problems of their own, so that's something that school's not going to teach you. So it's important that you pay attention in school, but it's also important that you take seriously the life lessons you're taught because that's really going to make the difference between a person that is um, that is here and the person that's here. The person that's here is going to understand the life lessons that taught them, combined with the
Oh,
school lessons, going to get them up here.
so let's talk about let's transition over to your work as community engagement and coordinator. Um, what does community engagement truly mean in a city government context?
Yes. So thank you for the question. So community engagement essentially is the relationship building and overall programming initiatives of a government agency. So, in other words, when you think about a communications department, you're thinking about, you can imagine it as a city's microphone. Their job is to highlight the wins of the city or municipality. They tell the stories, help shape the narrative. So they're the ones that are running the social media, writing press releases, controlling the website. They're the city's microphone. Community engagement is the city's handshake. So it's the same field. They're related cousins, but they're very different. So a lot of my job entails forming relationships with the business community, with various stakeholders like churches, other government agencies, and basically the ultimate goal of community engagement in a government sense is to remind the community in which you're serving that we're not just a government office. We want to actually we want you to see us as a partner, not just simply a government office. And when people see you as a partner, they encourage civic participation. So, for example, I have a couple of initiatives that I run each year, such as Stonecrest Citizens Academy, which is a free 6-week program for residents and business owners of Stonecrest to sign up. They can learn about their local government. Each week, they hear from various other different departments, and by the end, they become a Stonecrest ambassador. They've learned all the departments. They learn what we do, and that encourages civic participation, because when people understand something or they understand what their city does, they're more inclined to be involved in it because they feel connected to it. So that's the goal of the Citizens Academy. We also have the Youth Council. We do youth engagement, which is similar to the Citizens Academy, but it's for kids, particularly high school students. So we take them on field trips. We help teach them government so that can inspire future leaders. Also have Georgia Cities Weeks. So we find various ways to engage the public. The ultimate goal is to find various ways to where residents can make sure their voice is heard in their local government. So that's the particular number one goal of community engagement in a government setting.
So when it comes to that, because as you explained that, a lot of people don't really understand that in real context as to what that really means. They just think of what actually how word get passed around, and this is what's supposed to be like this, that, or the other. How do you ensure that your constituents, the people that you represent and you help in those areas, how do you make sure that they understand concretely what that means as to the community engagement, from the city contextual perspective?
Yes. So first, you have to make them understand that this is something they should actually care about. Like, this is something that affects them. Like, so you don't want to the first, you got to meet people where they are. So in the sense of, if I was speaking to the council, I may say, good evening, council members. As I scale the scope and proves our situation, it's apparent that we have a serious problem. When you say that's addressing the council, you don't want to say that going to a barber shop or something like that. They're not trying to hear that. So you don't want to sound very political. That's the first thing. You want to sound like a genuine person, like you genuinely care about what they have going on.
Yeah.
Second thing is going back to, you have to make them care. You have to show, hey, these decisions actually affect you. For example, we're having a zoning ordinance change this evening. Business owners have the opportunity to make their voice heard. This ordinance change can affect how businesses get their business licenses. You have to make sure business owners understand that. Like, hey, this can impact you. This can impact your living. So that's the first thing. You have to come across as a genuine person, and then you have to make sure it's something they care about. Now that you've done that, then you put in more simpler terms what a community engagement does, and you make sure it's personal to them. So if I was, let's say I was going to, let's take that same barbershop, for example. I walked in, I'm saying, hey, can I speak to the master barber? And the master barber comes like, hey, sir, I'm Nicholas Ivey. I'm with the city of Stonecrest. Yes, sir, just coming by, to see if you have any issues, and want to let you know we're here for you as a city. We want to make sure that your voices are heard. We want to make sure your concerns are heard, and if you have any concerns, we want to make sure those are addressed. So the first thing is, I noticed right there, I made it personable to him. Like, I came in there and I said, hey, sir, I'm with the city of Stonecrest. We want to make sure we're here for you. So now that I've did that introduction and I hear what he has to say, and I said, well, hey, sir, I really want you to get involved. We have an upcoming zoning ordinance meeting that's going to affect local businesses. I would love to have your voice heard. And he said, oh, how's it going to affect? Well, sir, this ordinance change is going to change our business license process, things of that nature. Oh, well, great. So now he feels connected to it. So the important thing is making it relatable to them and showing that these decisions can actually affect them. Because most people, when they think of government, they automatically think of the president, they automatically think of Congress. And while those are in critical areas of government, local government is the closest thing you have to you that affect local decisions every day. Because local government is the one that has your police department, your fire department, your public works department. The local government has the services that residents depend on most daily, yet they're least involved in local government, and they don't really understand that. So when there's let's say a 2024 president's election, you have thousands of people show up to come out and vote. But if you have a local council election, you may have 10,000 people vote, maybe. So that just shows you the lack. So the important thing is showing them that, hey, this affects you. Mm-hmm. So you want to meet people where they are. Also, with that, meeting people where they are, you have to do initiatives that people are interested in. You have to do things people are interested in. For example, start a book club. Start a book club in your community, or start a gardening club. Or let's start something called the Crest Walkers, which we did. Let's start a walk club. Target different sectors of the community. You can't just look at Stonecrest in general and say, "Oh, we want to tackle the community." No, we're going to act like it's a slice of a pie, a big pie. We're going to slice it up into pieces. So we're going to figure out ways. Hey, this is how we can get our church community involved. This is how we can get our school members involved. So when I go to the schools, I had the opportunity to be principal for a day. When I met with the schools, I was able to be with various principals and other things of that nature. So I was able to really grasp the school district sense. The school district has a community strategist. I was able to meet with him. So it's important that you tackle various sectors of the community. Because if you don't tackle various sectors of the community sliced up, you're just going to you have no plan. So it's important to meet people where they are, because that's how you can really engage them.
So how do you build trust between residents and city leadership?
That's a great point, because without trust, there's nothing. So the first thing is you create opportunities for residents' voices to be heard by city leadership. So whether that be you invite them to a council meeting, whether that be you host, like with the Cobb County Police Department, we do coffee with the cop. We also do pizza with the police. We also I assist various council members doing town hall meetings. So let's say District 4 council members having a town hall meeting, I'll contact various stakeholders in that district and say, hey, this council member is having a town hall tonight. Please come out. So now here's the thing. Everybody is not going to care about issues right now. You want to create other opportunities to first lure them in. Then once you got them, now you can really lay it on them like, hey, I need you to come to this. What I mean by that is every year we have a Screen on the Green. Is a free entrepreneur expo where businesses can come out, set up tables, and we also have artists perform. And we also play a movie after the artists perform. So like last year we had Carl Thomas perform. which is a great. Yes, we had great success with that. So once you invite those people to that, so for example, we launched a Hey Stonecrest app, which is basically a C-click fix where residents see issues in the community, they can report it to us. So, like, let's say they see a pothole, they can take a picture of it, send it to us, and then we can go send the proper um, staff out to get it fixed. So, when we were choosing how to name the app, we wanted community input. So, when we invited residents to Screen on the Green, we had a huge turnout. Now, here I come with the iPad and say, hey, I'm Nicholas Ivey, your community engagement coordinator. Look, we're starting a brand new app and we need help naming it. Here's 4 options. Which one would you think is the best name? That's how you engage them. You first lure them in, meet them where they are. Now you got them. And so that's the important thing, is to find the common ground, find what people are interested in, and then you got them.
Wow. What are the biggest misconceptions people have about local government?
I'd say some of the biggest misconceptions is people feel like we're not doing anything. They feel like when they're not seeing things immediately, it's like, oh, our local government must not be doing anything. And that's not always the case, because there are some governments out there that don't do anything. But that's not always the case, because things take time, and that's one of the common misconceptions I would say is they feel like their government doesn't care about them, or they're not seeing anything, or when they see a tax increase or a proposal for that, they're like, hey, wait a minute, why is this necessary? But they don't understand, like, hey, as this community continues to grow, the primary funding source for local governments is property taxes. So, if residents are wanting an additional service, such as, they want a public works department, it's going to cost money. So, like, the millage rate has to go up, so they often feel like when things like that come up, it's for, crappy reasons, or not justified reasons, frivolous reasons, but that's not the case. So the common misconception is that, and residents being misinformed. When residents are misinformed, that can cause a problem. But that also can be a government issue, because if you're not effectively communicating with your residents, when there's no facts or no explanation, there's room to assume. And that's the worst possible mistake you can have with your constituents, is that they're thinking you're not being transparent as a government, so then therefore they assume things. So that's something you want to try to avoid.
And so, with community engagement being as important as it is, I think, when efforts are just done to try to go out and to reach people, especially in the spaces where they are, I know that can be a little bit difficult. But if it starts out good, has it ever got to the point that is like starts to ease up, limit, and then it just dissipates?
Yeah, you can run into that, unfortunately. But that's the thing. You can't, once you get somebody, you got to reel them all the way, and you got to keep them in.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a relationship. When you get into a relationship, people will give their maximum effort at the beginning of the relationship, or to lure somebody in. So, like, think of it as a beautiful woman. You're going to do everything to get that woman you desire. So, but when you finally get her, a lot of men will start to, they stop doing some of the same things they were doing. They kind of get comfortable. And then the woman looks at it, hey, well, now that he has me, he's not doing some of the same things he was doing. And so that's when they slowly but surely start to back off. And the writing will always be on the wall. It's a lot of men don't see it until it's too late. Mm-hmm. That goes back to your stakeholders. So once you can't be Mr. Too Good, Mr. Casanova in the beginning, and say, hey, I'm Nicholas Ivey, we want you to get involved. And they start getting involved, and then yet you start being non-responsive. You stop taking into consideration what they're saying. You stop engaging them constantly. Like, you can't get them in the beginning, and then once you got them, not continue with them. Now, some are going to fall off naturally, because that's just the game. Some people have life going on, they move away. That can happen. But it's important now on your end, you stay consistent. So when with the Citizens Academy, I mentioned something I noticed with the Citizens Academy is after we graduate them, we weren't doing anything with them. So I said, hey, let's start a Stonecrest Ambassador Alumni Network. So twice a week or once a month, I try to send them a update, just saying, hey, hey Stonecrest ambassadors, this is what's going on. This is what we're doing. We know we want to make sure you're involved. This is what's going on. So it's important that once you get them, you keep them like a relationship. So that's the important thing to keep them from the momentum from skyrocketing to falling back down.
Mm. So, how do you ensure transparency in your work? Because I know, as you were just mentioning before, as you're going out and you're like trying to talk to thousands of people, I know that that gets to be a bit much, but how do you keep the transparency going? Because, as you said, if people start seeing and feeling like, I'm not sure about this, you lose them. How do you, how do you ensure?
You're absolutely correct. The it's important to be transparent as a government, a local government, and that's something I've tried to pride myself on throughout my career is being very transparent. The first thing is you have to keep them engaged in the process. So you can't just spring up and make a decision and not explain yourself. So the first thing is you want to engage them in the beginning. Let's say it's a situation where you need to raise the millage rate. First thing is you put it out there that hey, okay, let's use a real example. Let's go to how the Cobb County School Board said that they were considering closing down a lot of schools within the Cobb County in Georgia.
Mhm.
So first, that was transparent right there. First, they put it out in the beginning and said, hey, this is something we're considering. These are the schools we're thinking about. We want community feedback. So, and then they say, okay, these are the reasons why we need to close these schools. Because it's not just important to seek public feedback. First, you have to explain your position. Okay, this is the millage rate. This is why we need to raise it. This is how it's going to benefit you. Remember now how it's going to benefit you. It's important that when being transparent, you always make sure that it ties back to how it's going to benefit the residents. Because if they don't feel like it's going to benefit them, why should they care? So that's the first thing. Also, being transparent is it's not only good to engage them in the beginning, you want to engage them throughout the process. So, like, okay, now that we've got community feedback, okay, thank you for your feedback. Here are the changes we made considering impact feedback. Also, it's not only we're just going to put out some statements, we're going to have some community meetings. Let's go to each district. So if there's 5 districts, we're going to have one in each district. And first, we'll have one in City Hall. Then we'll go to each district. That's important too. So now, will every resident engage? Well, you have some residents that don't go but then complain. Yes, that's going to happen. But at least as a government, you can say, hey, we were transparent about the scenario. We attempted to go out to the community. We tried. So that's the important thing is always being transparent. And always, it's important. Here's one mistake a lot of local governments make. When you're dealing with residents, it's not good to only engage them when things are going wrong. You always want to engage them too to celebrate your wins. Like when something good happens, tell them. So, like, if it's a situation where hey, we paid 5 roads this quarter, that's great news. Tell your residents, not just oh we have an emergency going on. That's not good. You want to make sure that your news is positive what you're sharing, not just always negative or a neutral position. So that's the important thing of staying transparent is constantly engaging the residents, and not just one manner, but different manners. Because you have some people that aren't on social media, so you want to make sure you find different mechanisms to engage them. Hey, we're going to put flyers throughout the community, or we'll put up yard signs, or you have some people that prefer email, so we're going to send out a blast email. You have some people that prefer social media. We'll make sure we're active on social media. We'll set up a text messaging app to where people can get updates right to their phone. So it's important that you find different mechanisms to engage your community, and that's the main way to be transparent with them.
So, how do you? Well, let me say this. What strategies help you reach residents who feel disconnected or unheard?
Yes. So the important thing is meeting them where they are. I had mentioned before. The strategies is, first of all, you never want a resident to feel like their voice is not being heard or at least considered. And some of the strategies I personally utilize are you meeting them where they are. Remember, we have our pie now. So, let's say I want a slice of church pie. The first thing is you want to first of all have a plan. Okay, so if your organization operates off quarters, you can say, okay, right now we're in the first quarter of the year. So by April, January, I formulate my plan. By April, I'll revisit it and make any additional changes going to quarter two. So let's take quarter two, for example. So the first thing I would do is I'm going to implement a strategy on how I engage each community. So let's say I want to do the church. Okay, with churches, I actually was with New Birth the other day, and we gave out lunch to public safety. So you want to do charitable things with them. You want to, make sure you're present with them. Maybe go to a Bible study or event they have on their premises. If you want to, let's say, go to a business, go to them. Go just walk in the business and say, "Hey, I'm Nicholas Ivey. Does the manager or owner have to be here? Happen to be here?" They say no. Give me a card and say, "Hey, just let them know I stopped by from the city. Please have them give me a call at the earliest convenience." So it's meeting them where they are. You can't always. A lot of mistake governments make is you can't just expect people to, you post a flyer and then they're going to come. That's not how that works. You're their government. You work for them. So like you have to go to them. So it's important to go to the community. Or let's say we really want to get the word about something. Let's stand out in front of Walmart. Let's get a team of 6 employees. Let's stand out in front of Walmart and let's pass out flyers. Those are various ways to get the word out. Is you have to utilize different mechanisms. Whether that be I go to Applebee's, for example, we're doing Georgia Cities Week. On that Monday, we're going to have a community fitness day, which we have a partnership with LA Fitness, to where residents, we actually going beyond Cities Week. Residents can work out every third Monday of the month for free, open to close. Stonecrest residents. And it's great for both sides because on our side, it's, we care about our community. We're actually expanding our services without doing any heavy lifting. And for LA Fitness, it's great too because they're in the community. It gives them more visibility. So relationship building is key. You cannot do anything in engagement without relationships. It just cannot happen. You can say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that," but if people don't want to show up, or if you don't have the necessary things to do things, it's not gonna happen. You can't have an event by yourself, or if you play an event, you're gonna need various tables. You're gonna need colleges there. You're gonna need businesses there. You're gonna need so it's important that you not only reach out strategies, but you also find something that's interesting to that stakeholder and then apply it. And that's how you reach them. That's the various strategies I use to make sure that I'm equally reaching all sectors of the community.
For all of those communities that you engage, those that are looking at you right now, can you tell them what more that they can expect from you and how they should also be engaging with you?
Yes. So first thing is expect a lot more to come. We're going through a leadership change right now, as I mentioned earlier. Our city council accepted the resignation of our city manager this past January. So they recently voted to extend the search by 30 days. So I have to wait to get to that new city once that new city manager gets in. and I can meet with them and see what their priorities are, and align my direction with theirs. I'm able to do a lot more, but please expect a lot more, because something we really want to do throughout the year. We have some great things coming up this summer with our Juneteenth celebration. We also going to have some pool parties because Stonecrest has its own aquatic center. So we have a lot coming up. We have a lot of things coming up towards the later part of the year. We're going to announce our artist for Screen on the Green soon. So things are on the move. Stonecrest is on the move. I'm always a phone call away. I'm very personable. I can be reached via email. I can be reached via call. I also utilize HOAs. That's a strategy I really utilize to reach out to residents. I go and meet with HOAs. I go out to their meetings. I'm more than happy to come and talk. So I definitely want to make sure I make myself available to make sure that some of these concerns are addressed and that residents make their voices feel heard.
Did they get my application?
Oh yeah, they did.
They didn't?
Yeah, they did.
Okay. I want to make sure they got my application now, because I want to make sure I be that new city manager. Baby.
Absolutely, we need you.
Let's move over here to your work as in public relations and communications. How did you first enter the field of public relations?
Yes, so how I first entered the field of public relations was because I had no interest in public relations at first. I was always a good public speaker, but I didn't really ever see myself being a PIO or anything of that nature. Well, one day I was with my father and my stepfather and my mother, and we were at a community cleanup, and the public information director was actually out there, and she said, "Hey, she did a video of me. She said, "Hey, you have a lot of potential." She said, "If I ever have a position open, I'm going to hire you." So then I said, "Okay." I thought she was playing. Well, lo and behold, maybe some months later, a position opened up, and she hired me. So, but it goes back to relationships now. Mm-hmm. So it's important that you're always nice to people. You're always nice to people because you never know who you're going to need. So that's how I got into public relations. Now, I was a marketing major, but public relations wasn't the sector I was interested in when it came to that.
So, I mean, since you like public speaking, I mean, PR seems like it's a pretty good thing because you're explaining this department better than I've ever heard, if you want to know the truth. I'm being honest.
Oh, wow, thank you.
What makes effective communications in government different from the private sector?
What makes government communications different than the private sector is your obligations to the people. Yes, in the private sector, you care about people, obviously, but it's for monetary reasons, it's for profit reasons. So you can you have a lot more leeway to kind of shape the narrative that best benefits you in the private sector. And you have to remember that as a communications professional, your job is to be neutral, normally, in a government setting. But in a private sector, you have to go with whatever the best interest of the owner or whatever the best interest of the company is, you have to go with. Now, that's the same in government, but in government, you have to be more transparent because you're answering to the people. The taxpayers pay your salary. So it's not like, you're selling them a service and then they're purchasing it. So it's an exchange. That's not the case in government. In government, your job is to serve the people. So as a government professional, you have to be neutral. So like when you're dealing with a council, it's important not to choose sides. It's important because each council member is going to have their own priority, own things they're focused on. Each district is different. Each constituent is different. Each sector of constituents are different. So that's the main difference in government is you have to explain yourself more in government. In a private sector communications, you can just say, "Oh, this decision was made." That's it. In government, you cannot do that. So, like for example, if Chick-fil-A made a firing decision, or some kind of decision, they don't have to explain anything. They can just say, hey, or like, okay, let's give you a real life scenario. As a part of my master's program, we were required to break down a movie called Article 99. Article 99 is a 1992 comedy movie with Ray Liotta, Forrest Whitaker, and a few others. And basically, they're doctors in the hospital, and they have to deal with various challenges. But there's one specific part where the two of the doctors try to persuade the other doctor to force a patient out without caring for them. And the reason for that is so they can clear up space. So, for example, let's take that in a private sector and a public sector. So let's say that allegation is true, or let's say it's gotten out to the public that, hey, this place is forcing people out without properly caring for them. In a public sector, you can just say, hey, we're aware of this. That's it. Or, hey, you can make changes to it, but you don't have to be as transparent throughout the process. You may lose business, but you're not going to have to be as transparent. In a government setting, you have to be a little more transparent. Now, you have to be careful now, because in a situation like that, it can create a lot of legal risk. So you have to make sure that any kind of public statement won't create any unnecessary legal risk for the organization. So I would say that's the main difference between private and public sector communications. Public sector, you have to do a little bit more explaining before you can just make a decision sporadically.
How do you craft messaging that resonates with diverse audiences?
The first thing is you have to, in order to craft a message to reach diverse audiences, you have to implement various mechanisms in which to get it out there to them. So, like, for example, like you mentioned earlier, a older person might not be on social media, so okay, let's mail things out to people. We can do that with the mail. Let's mail some things out to people. That's the important thing, is find out different things to reach them. And also, you want to, if let's say I'm sending a letter to the CEO of DeKalb County's office, I'm not going to be, I'm going to use certain terminology. I'm going to be a little bit more articulate, professional, with her office. But if I'm just, sending a message out to the broad community, you want to break it down to things they can understand. You don't want to sound too political. You don't want to sound disingenuous. You want to sound grounded and like you actually care. So the important thing is making sure that when you craft those messages, it's things that people can understand and it directly benefits them, where they can understand how this is going to benefit them. That's the main thing.
So, what is the biggest mistake organizations make in communications?
The biggest mistake organizations make in communication is failing to alert their stakeholders when something happens or some decision is made. It needs to be immediate. It needs to be immediate. It doesn't need to be tomorrow, next week, because when you start waiting 2-3 days, the news is old at that point. You want to be able, as a communications department, to shape the narrative of the organization. You want to get out first, because let's say a situation happens, and then Fox 5 covers it, Channel 2 covers it, Atlanta News First covers it. Okay, it's already out there now. So, like, you're going to look more like you're reacting to it. Mm-hmm. So, if I had to put it in other words, a biggest mistake communications department can make is being reactive instead of proactive. You never want to be reactive to where it's like, now you get on this backlash. Now you want to release a statement. No, right. When it happens, let's immediately do it now. Before everything gets out, we can say, hey, we are aware of this. We're looking into it. Make sure legal reviews it so it doesn't create any unnecessary risk if it's a situation where litigation could possibly be involved, because anything you say could be used against you in court. So we want to make sure that you get ahead of things so then you can shape the narrative. So then, it's like, okay, residents already know about it. So then, when it comes out in the news, some residents may be like, oh, well, they already told us about this. I don't really care. Or hey, the news is trying to exaggerate it. But then, like, if you wait till the news gets a hold of it, now it's, oh, they didn't tell us about this. So that now that can lower public trust, which is terrible because you need public trust when a crisis happens.
How do you manage crisis communications or urgent public messaging?
The first thing is in a crisis, there's a couple of things that matter: speed, clarity, and accuracy. Speed, you want to be fast, but you don't want to be too fast. You want to be able to, first of all, you want to make sure the information is accurate you're putting out. So the first thing I would do in a crisis is, first of all, I would coordinate internally with various stakeholders. So I would get with city leadership. That'd be like the mayor, the council, the city manager, the directors, whoever needs to be involved in that conversation. And first of all, I will understand the true magnitude or scale of the situation. So now that I have that understanding, then I will begin to formulate a message. Like I said, if it's a situation where litigation could possibly be involved, you want to make sure that legal reviews it before it goes out, and you put it out there. So the important thing is you want to get it out there to say, hey, residents on it, because some residents about, okay, our government's on it, they're acting on it, they know about it, but you don't want to be wrong, because, like, let's just say, for example, okay, let's give you a real world example that I learned when I was in the training class. Let's say there's a bomb downtown. Residents have been government. You want to make sure.
What was that?
I have no idea. I don't think it was me. I hope it wasn't you either. But so let's say you're alerted of a bomb. The first thing is, let's make sure it's a bomb first. Let's not put it out there that, hey, there's a bomb downtown, please avoid the area. For a couple of reasons. First of all, you don't want to cause unnecessary public panic. Two, you want to make sure it actually is a bomb, because what if you put it out there as a bomb, but then the fire terror squad gets down there and they realize, oh, it was the pipe burst. Well, now you put it out, it was a bomb, but really it was just that. So it's important that you're accurate in what you're saying, because now you lose public trust, because everyone's gonna look at you as a joke. Like, they're like, hey, we can't take our government seriously. They told us it was a bomb. So that's just a small example of, in a crisis, it's not important to only be fast, but you also have to be accurate in what you're saying. So that's the important thing, is being accurate in a crisis and allowing the experts to be the experts.
Let's transition over to your work as a marketing strategist and leadership. How did your marketing background prepare you for public service?
Yes, the marketing, I would say, it was my earliest lessons as far as the best mechanisms in which to get things out to people. And it was my first lesson that it's important to consider various avenues when you're trying to get information out to people. So, for example, even if we just talk about social media, it's not you have some organizations that are only on Facebook. That's a huge mistake. You have to be on other platforms, because just because a person is on Facebook doesn't mean they're on Instagram. Just because a person is on Instagram doesn't mean they're on Facebook. So in other words, different people are going to be different platforms. So it's important that you touch all of them. So that was the thing that marketing taught me is it's important to get things out to people in various methods, because if you just stick to one method, you're not really going to get everything out. So that was the earliest lesson I really learned from marketing, is that, you have to figure out different ways to get things out to people. Once you do that, you're going to be very successful.
What principles of marketing translate best into government work?
The principles of marketing that transfer into work is learning how people see things in their attitude. If you can change someone's attitude, you can change their behavior. If you can change the way they see things, you can change their behavior, or you can change the way they interact. And that's the important thing um, that's underestimated about marketing. A lot of people think marketing is just simply, oh, you're just getting the word out about things, or you're trying to sell a product. But you have to understand the behaviors of people in order to sell them something. You have to understand how to give good customer service if you want people to buy something from you. So it's just not simply understanding that, it's you also have to understand how people think. And that can translate well into government, because, if you're understanding how people think, then you can best learn the correct public policy to address what they're saying. Because public policy is very married to marketing to me, because, for example, let's take the zoning ordinance I mentioned earlier. It's public policy, but the marketing in which you want to make sure people know about it is key. So we passed out flyers, we posted on social media, we went out to various businesses and said, "Hey, here's a stack of these flyers. Can you please leave them on your shelf?" Go to different gas stations. So that's the important piece that I would say marketing has transferred well into government, is you have to find out different methods to get things out to people and how people want their information. That's the important thing.
How do you approach branding for a city or public institution?
First thing is I want to know what the identity of the public organization is. What is our identity? What's our vision? What do we stand for? In Stonecrest we say Stonecrest proud. Okay, what does that mean? Why should residents be Stonecrest proud? Once you understand a organization's mission and where they're going, then as a branding professional, you can best determine how we're going to brand the city. Okay, if we're Stonecrest proud, let's start doing things that reflect that. Okay, we're going to have a Stonecrest proud pet rally. We're going to encourage residents to do a Stonecrest proud hashtag on social media. So the important thing about, you have to see vision of anything. So that's how I would, is once I understand that, then I'll be able to implement various initiatives to reflect that branding piece. Because branding is not only just, we're going to create logos and things of that nature, but it's also making it clear to residents who we are as a city. So that's the important thing, is first, if we don't have that, we have to identify that. Okay, so we'll work through that. Okay, who are we as a city? Let's come up with a slogan. And let's explain to residents why that slogan should matter to them. So that's the main thing, how I approach it.
What makes a message compelling enough to move people to action?
What makes a message compelling enough to move people to act on? That is something that they actually care about, and something that is going to affect them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a move a person to act.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to politicians. When I think of here's what separates a good politician from a great politician. A good politician will motivate people to vote. A great politician inspires people to vote. So, for example, Barack Obama, he inspired people to vote. That's the important thing when it comes to something like that, is to move a message, you have to make sure it's things that people care about. Because if people do not care about what you're saying, they're not. Once they hear something they don't care about, they automatically check out. So you automatically have to make sure that it's things that people care about. That's going to move
them. So, how do you evaluate the effectiveness of a marketing campaign?
How I will evaluate the effectiveness of a marketing campaign is, first of all, I would see. First of all, I would evaluate the reach on how we did it. Where did we get it to? Who all did we get it to? How many approximate people did we pass it out to? I also would like to send out a survey to various stakeholders that we got the information to, say, hey, what do you think about this? What were your thoughts? What are some things you would like to see differently? And then from that data, I can say, well, okay, 60% said they really liked this initiative. It really helped them out. 40% said no, this didn't help them. You have actual numbers to work with. So it's important as a marketing professional that after you do a marketing campaign, you don't simply just go in house and say, hey, this was a success. It wasn't a success. You have to talk to the people you are trying to market it to and say, hey, how do you like this? That's a part of marketing too, is seeing what people think. So getting surveys out there, different things of that nature. So that's the main how I would evaluate a successful marketing campaign is the feedback from residents and the overall effectiveness on our end as far as pushing out to residents. So, like for example, if we have an event today, did we increase, event participation by 10% next time we have an event? That's how you can determine the effectiveness of a marketing campaign.
So tell us, what is your motivation?
My motivation is to be successful and to have a good life. I never wanted to. Of course, you're going to do things in your life that you regret, you wish you could take back. But I would say in my life, I want to look back when I'm a 65-year-old man and say, hey, I may not have been able to accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish, but I at least was able to live a great life. I was able to impact a lot of people. What also motivates me is the people I'm serving. That's the main reason I like being in government, is I feel like this actually has a lasting impact on the community. So that's really the main thing. What really motivates me is the desire to be successful and the desire to help people.
So, what role does data play in your strategic decisions?
Plays a huge role. It plays a huge role because, first of all, um, when you're making proposals to council, they want to see evidence. They want to see, okay, you arrive at this decision or this proposal, but what prompted you? What propelled you to land to this conclusion? You can't just simply say, "Oh, I think this is the best method." Okay, why do you think this is the best method? Okay, well, I can say, okay, well, 45% of residents prefer this type of event. Therefore, that's why we're going to ask for this in this budget cycle. So that's number one. Number two, when you're making decisions, residents want to hear data to prove programs that either work or don't work, or why you're going to make this decision. So data is critical, even when you're thinking of internally. It's important that you're keeping track of various things. So that is huge, 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 huge. You cannot be a successful administrator if you are not keeping track of data. It's just, or you have someone that whose job it is to do that, and they're reporting it back to you. But you have to keep track of data. It's absolutely mandatory.
So, how do you adapt messaging to different demographics?
That's a great question because various um, various different environments require different approaches. So what might be interesting to one demographic of the community may not be interesting to the other. So when people automatically think about demographics, they normally think about race, and that can be true, but it also could be age. You could have your young people, your teenagers. You can have young people, young adults, your older adults, and your senior citizens. The important thing is formulating different ways to get that information out to them. So when your older people figure out ways to get to them, um, or young people get ways to get to them. So different demographics do require various methods, and it's important that you understand your community to understand that because what yeah, young people are all the same, but what a young person may care about at Stonecrest may be different than what a young person cares about in Douglasville. So it's important that you understand your community, you understand the issues of your community. Because let's say an issue that may affect Stonecrest, that a young person is like, hey, this needs to be dealt with, may not be the same thing a person in Douglasville is dealing with. So it's important that you understand your community because if you don't understand that, then you will not be able to understand the best methods as far as tackling the issues facing those various demographics.
Um, What is the most rewarding part of strategic communications?
The most rewarding part is seeing that your impact informed the community and made a big difference in the community. It got more people involved. It encouraged civic participation. It really made people look at the city not just as a place to live, but their home. And that can be the rewarding part, is because you control the messaging. You control. Remember, you're the microphone, so you're the one that has the voice that's able to talk to the residents. And words have power. People forget a lot of things, but one thing they don't forget is lyrics to their favorite song. So remember, you're the microphone. So it's important that you say the right things that can keep people engaged to where they'll keep wanting to listen to your music.
Mm. Um, how do you stay creative in a role that requires consistency?
That's a great question. The thing is, first of all, you have to stay in depth to the trends. You can't solve 2026 problems with 2015 solutions. So it's important that you stay in depth to the time period that you're in. That's very important that you do that. And secondly, you can't just depend on yourself. Like you have to have other voices in the room with you, or in the decision making process with you, that can say, hey, this is some things we can do to take it to the next level. And we put our heads together, and together we're able to implement some changes. So it's important that you stay adapt to the trends, and you have various voices that are saying, hey, this is some things we can do to change the game. So for example, TikTok, TikTok is blew up now. That's a great way to get information out to people. Okay, instead of just posting flyers on Facebook, hey, let's make a video and put it on TikTok, and get it out there. But if in 2015, if you ask somebody, hey, I'm putting something on TikTok, they say, what is that? So it's important that you stay in depth to the trends of the time, because that's going to help you determine the best mechanism to implement today. So that's the important part of staying creativity, is always thinking outside the box, but thinking outside the box as it relates to today.
Mhm. What marketing trends do you believe cities should pay attention to?
I would say the marketing trends people should pay attention to is, first of all, how the economy is going, such as gas prices and things of that nature. And I know local government can't control those things, but it's important that they pay attention to those things, because that can influence residents' voices on things. Like that can influence a lot of their ways of thinking. Also, something they need to pay attention to, is the various social media trends. Where's social media going? With the rise of AI, things have changed. It's important to stay in depth to that, because AI is within 10 years, AI is going to change everything. Like, we're still in the beginning stages of the AI, but I would say within 10 years, it's going to be fully implemented. Now, there's some things that it won't be able to replace, but it's important that residents understand that now. So it's important that you stay in depth to those things, as a government agency, because you're not going to be able to make decisions if you don't understand the current trend.
So when you think about these trends and you think about your relationship with these communities that you have to engage with, can you tell us, give us some feedback as to what have some of your conversations been like with the community personnel that you've had the opportunity to chat with, and what were they looking for, and were you able to help them?
Well, yeah. So I won't always be able to help them with every scenario, because a lot of people aren't. When I have various conversations with constituents, a lot of the time it's problems that the city isn't even responsible for. So, like for example, if they're having a issue with animal control or things of that nature, they automatically assume that, hey, I live in Stonecrest, so Stonecrest must be responsible for this. So it's important that first of all they understand where to direct their inquiry to. And as a community engagement coordinator, that's a part of your job to making sure that residents are connected to where they need to be connected to. So that can be the main thing. But no, you're not going to be able to help them with everything. So that's something that's a big mistake government agencies can make. You don't have all the answers. You cannot make it seem like you have all the answers, because that's another thing you want to lose public trust on. You want to make it clear to residents that, hey, this is what we're control over. We're here for you. We're willing to help you. But hey, this is unfortunately we have no control over this. Now behind the scenes we can advocate for things, but we can't promise anything because it's not directly under us. And it's important that you don't promise a lot. You cannot talk. You cannot talk a good game and not deliver, because you're setting all these expectations and underproducing. I would rather a person come to me and say, "Hey, Nick, I really tried to do this, but unfortunately, I was unsuccessful." And the person that's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that," but then they end up under delivering. So that's what you have to be mindful of when you're talking to these residents: is you're not over promising them and telling them things you can actually deliver on.
So, when it comes to your community engagement and public service, can you tell us what does it take to build a strong relationship between a city and its residents?
The first thing is going to take is trust. If there's no trust, nothing else can happen. If your residents do not trust you, do not believe what you say, or do not believe that you have their best interest at heart, it's gone. You might as well forget about it. So the main thing is trust. Now that you have their trust, you have to have transparency. You have to engage them thoroughly, clearly, and truthfully. If you're caught lying or anything, that's a big thing with trust. So it's important they're transparent with them. Something also with residents that you have to be mindful of is you always also want to make sure that the information you're telling them is accurate. Even though you may not be intentionally lying, you want to make sure that what you're telling them is the correct stuff. Because if they find out that you told them something false, or that's not totally true, that's going to lose public trust too. So the main thing is residents have to trust you, or at least if they don't trust you, they at least believe what you're telling them. Because if you don't have that, there's nothing you can do. So if you have, and how you do that is be accountable to them, be transparent, take accountability, never try to pass the buck. Because one thing a big mistake a government can make is to take all the praise when things are going great, but then when things are going bad, they want to start passing the buck. Can't do that, because people are going to pick up really, really early on that. And constituents aren't dumb; they know. So that's the important thing: is you want to make sure your residents can trust you and believe what you're saying.
Nick, I'm going to tell you this: we need to package you as a public person, because you would do a lot of good with a lot of places. Here is from Dr. Whitty. He put this in the chat, and if you want to comment to this, you can. He says, "Under promise and over deliver."
Beautifully put, Doctor. Beautifully put. Dr. Whitty is absolutely correct. He's absolutely correct. Under promise, over deliver, but let your results speak for yourself. That's let your work speak for yourself, because the worst thing you can do is make a bunch of promises and then underdeliver. So like I mentioned before, I would much rather a person come to me and just say, "Hey, this is something I cannot do. Hey, I tried." But if you come to me and say, "I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that," you're setting all these expectations and then under delivering. So that's a big mistake. So, Doctor, you put it perfectly.
How do you ensure residents feel included in decision making?
Well, the important thing in making them feel included in decision making is engage them early and often. So you never want to wait until you're late into the process to make them feel included in the situation. Because if you engage them too late, then it's like, oh, they're gonna be like, well, the decision's already been made, so you don't care what I have to say. So you want to come to them in the beginning and say, hey, this is something we're thinking about doing. What are your thoughts? We haven't made any decision about this. This is something that was proposed, that was made. What do you think about it? And engaging them early and often can help with that, making them feel engaged in the process. And once you remember going back, once you engage them early and often and meeting them where they are, that's when you can pull them in and say, okay, what do you think about this? So it's important that you make it to where people can understand it and you seem genuine. And once you do that, that's how you can make sure they're involved in the civic process.
What have you learned from working directly with neighborhoods?
The I would say that the number one thing I've learned is problems are going to, of course, obviously different neighborhoods have different issues, different neighborhoods have different concerns, and you have some neighborhoods that are safer than others. You have some neighborhoods that are in bad parts of the town or good parts of the town. But one thing I'll say that I've learned is no matter where you go, people are gonna always care about public safety. People want to make sure that they feel safe in where they live. That's the number one thing. So that's the number one thing I've learned talking to these HOAs is they want to feel safe. And unfortunately, I had a situation where I had went to an HOA meeting a few months ago, and a young lady told me her car had been stolen, which was very terrible. But things like that, public safety. So the main thing is you learn that even though residents are in different sectors of the town, 8 times out of 10 are all going to have the same concerns. So you want to make sure that you also want to make sure with residents that HOAs that you're giving equal of them attention. You don't want to make it seem like you're giving one sector of the community more attention than the other, because that's going to be picked on really quick. And then once he's picked up on, it's not only going to come out in visual, they realize it, it's all going to come out in your policy delivery. When you make arguments for various policies, it's going to come talking points from somebody else, in that community, but you're not hearing what this community has to say. So it's important that you're giving all sectors of the community equal attention.
Is that always hard to do?
It can be easier said than done because, it can be easier said than done, but with proper coordination, no, it cannot be. It's not hard because you just make it simple. You can say, okay, well, let's say January, I'm going to focus on District 1, District 2, and then the next month I'll focus on District 3, District 4, and then this next month over I'll focus on District 5, or you want to make sure it's a continuous cycle, but the important thing to make sure it stays equal is make sure you're going out to each district. You're not just, come to City Hall. That's the biggest mistake you can make. Oh, come to City Hall and we'll talk to you. Yes, come to City Hall, but it doesn't need to be the only thing you say. Like, hey, let's go out to the community, and that's how you make sure you get different perspectives from different sectors of the community.
So, Nick, I got to ask you this because your job seems like it's plentiful.
Yeah.
Do you have individuals that are working with you? Because that outreach, I mean, as detailed as you're putting this, that's a whole lot of work that's meticulously has to be done. Are you doing this alone, or do you have people that work with you?
Well, not officially. Like I don't have let's say I don't have a specialist or anything like that working under me. But I do have the support of the mayor's office. I do have the communications team that can assist me. So I do have assistants with me that can help. But of course, if I had more people, I'd be able to really let loose and really launch it. So not where I want to be, but local government always has scarce resources a lot of times. So not where I like to be, but you make a great point because this is very meticulous work that requires a large dynamic.
Can you tell us, how do you approach engagement in communities with historical distrust? So now that the premise of that are the underserved and marginalized communities that are always under resourced.
Great question, because With them, you can't just simply come in and say, "Oh, I'm Nicholas Ivey, I'm a community engagement recorder," because they'll say, "Oh, we've heard this over and over again. Like, what are you going to do that's going to be so different?" So, first of all, you want to hear. First of all, my approach to them would be totally different. What
Mm-hmm.
I would do is I would introduce myself and I would shut up. I want to say, "Hey, I want you to explain to me where the distrust came into. Is it you feel like that your voice is not being heard? Is it a situation to where you feel like the city is funding other parts of the city but is not funding this? So I want to understand where the distress is coming into. Also want to make sure they know here, hey, I'm available to you. Here's my card. Please give me a call. I'm here for you. I'm here to support you. You have an advocate in me. So that when you present yourself as an advocate and an ally, that automatically calms them down right there. They're like, okay, this person is not just a surface level person. They're here to actually understand where we're coming from. So now they understand that. Now I'm going to go back to leadership. Now I'm going to say, hey, I met with this community. This is what they relayed to me. Can you explain to me for more context from the city side, especially if it's a person that has institutional knowledge of the city? Can you explain to me from the city side why this community may feel this way? So now that I've understood both sides, now I can determine the best approach as far as dealing with them. But it's important in that sense that you understand where they're coming from. You're not coming to present to them like you would in another community. Hey, this is what we're done. This is what we're doing. No, you want to hear from them. Where's the distrust coming into? And then once you understand the distrust, you can understand how to make it right.
Wow. So normally, and let's just when we think about, especially in DeKalb County, and I know your city, Stonecrest, it kind of like rolls around like this. And when I say rolls around like this, because like from where I am, I know that's 20 East and that's straight out past actually after Lithonia. And so your city kind of spreads out like this. So with this spreading out like that, how do you actually break down those coordinates of those different segments of communities, populations, distinguishments, and how you actually approach and work with these different communities?
Yes. So that's a great question because Stonecrest, a lot of people don't know, but Stonecrest is the largest city in DeKalb County by population and by square mileage.
Hmm.
So you're dealing with a now while we are one of the most heavily predominantly African American communities in the entire nation, which is very powerful as well. But you're dealing with various sectors of our people because like as well I do, all our people aren't the same. You have
Right.
some people that care about some things. You have some people that have priorities. You have some people that don't care at all. So like you have three types of people in a community, and this is going to tie into my approach with them. In a community, you're always going to have four types of people. You're going to have the content creators, the participants, the observers, and the people that don't care. What I mean by that is, okay, the content creators, you're going in any community, I don't care where you go, you're always going to have the people that are creating the content. You're going to have, the wonderful guy like you're going to have people creating articles, people telling other people what's going on in the community. Then you're gonna have the participants, the people that like, you in a group, you have the people that are commenting. They always comment on what's going on. They stay active. They make their voice heard. Then you're gonna have the observers. You have some people that just simply watch what's going on. Like they don't say anything, but they see everything that's going on.
Mhm.
Then you have people that don't care. So it's important that you understand those groups of the society. So once you understand that, now we're able to tackle those stakeholders.
Mhm.
So with the stakeholders, you divide them up into sectors of our pie. So you got the church, the school, the businesses, business owners, and the residents.
Mhm.
So dividing them up in different ways, you have to engage them different ways. So in the church, I'm going to go to a charity event with them. I'm going to maybe attend a Bible study. They have um, town hall meetings there. I'm going to attend something like that. I'm going to the church. School. I'm going to attend if they have a read to a kid day or career day. I'm going to attend that. If it's a situation with business owner. I'm gonna go out and talk to the businesses. Our residents, I'm gonna go to a HOA or we're gonna post on social media. So it's important that you have a plan with these people. You don't just say, "Oh, the church. Oh, I'm gonna just go talk to them." No, you have to have a plan on. Hey, this is how we're gonna engage them. Hey, you ask the church, hey, what are some issues you're hearing from your because the church is one of the most powerful places you can hear because they receive so many different types of people in the congregation. They hear, especially preachers, they hear from people. You can say, hey, what are some things your congregation is telling you that you're saying about the city? So it's important that you engage them different ways.
So I've got two comments here from Dr. Whitty. After I read the second one, you could respond. That would be great. His first one is this one. I'm gonna put it on the screen. He says, if we are doing all the talking, that is the fastest way to demonstrate that you don't care about what people care about. You're just trying to sell yourself and impress people. Now, his second comment is, oh, that one didn't go. Oh, yes, it's on the screen. People are less interested in what we know and more interested in knowing if we actually care. Do you care to respond to that?
He's precisely correct. And it goes back to what I mentioned earlier when I said that, when a lot of times people just want to be heard. If people feel like their voice is being heard, you actually genuinely care about them, then they're going to be more apt to be involved. So Dr. Wood is precisely correct. That's why you want to hear from residents. You want to hear what they think. And then from there, you can, implement your policies geared towards them. So absolutely, I totally agree.
And so, what role does collaboration play in your work?
Plays a big role because without collaboration, you can't get anything done. With businesses, you think about businesses, some things we do in the community, like coffee with the cop, pizza with the police. We have it with Chick-fil-A, we have it at Waffle House, we have it at various places, Dunkin' Donuts. So even collaboration internally, you have to have a good relationship internally. You can't get anything done if you don't collaborate with various other departments. So collaboration is everything, especially in communications, community engagement. You can't do anything without collaboration. That's key to everything.
So, final question for you. How do you balance city priorities with community expectations?
Ooh, that's a great question. What I would say is community matters should definitely matter in a big sense, and city priorities should be based off of what the community feels. If it's a situation to where the city has its own personal agenda and it's different than what the community wants, that's hard and difficult as a community engagement coordinator because you're kind of fighting two enemies, not two enemies, but two entities at once. So it's important that city priorities are aligned with residents' desires because that creates an environment to where residents actually care about their government. And it goes back to what Dr. Whitty made. A point Dr. Whitty made is when people actually feel like you care, that's when they're willing to be involved.
So in closing, do you have some words of wisdom and encouragement for our audience and how they can connect with you via social media, your website, or whatever have you?
Yes, absolutely. So, first of all, I want to thank Mr. CZ King for having me on this evening. It was definitely a pleasure being here. Um, what I want to leave you with is, if you don't remember anything else I said tonight, is relationships are key. It takes two to make a relationship work. There's two things I've learned during my time in government and in life in general is you never celebrate the downfall of a person, and you never know. You always be nice to people on your way up because you'll never know who you'll need on your way down. Don't ever forget that. So it's very important how you treat people because you never know who you'll need. So if you remember anything else I said tonight, please remember that. You can follow me on Instagram, Nick Lofton. It's my stage name, by the way, but I am Nicholas Ivey. But you can follow my Instagram at Nick Lofton. I'm also on LinkedIn as Nicholas Ivey. You can follow me on there. You can also, if you want to discuss business, you can email me in Ivey in Ivey at stonecrestga.gov. Shoot me an email. I love to chat with you all. So yes, I'm here if you need me. So thank you all very much for having me on here. It's been a blast.
Yes. So just before I actually do my closing monologue, I just want to say, well, first of all, I would need you to hang around for me after I do the closing monologue, if you would, please.
Absolutely.
Next thing is for those of you that are watching on all of our channels, if you have not yet, especially on our YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed and enabled all notifications, I would ask if you would please support us by subscribing to our channels and please engage with us because the information is here to help to continuously grow all of our communities. I want to tell you, Nick, I appreciate you for being here because, that was more than just an engaging insight that you gave, because I think it really helps a lot of people to understand more about government service, especially on the local, county, and state level, where you have individuals like yourself that are doing the job that you're doing, but the effectiveness of that work. And I want to tell you, I appreciate you for all those communities that you serve.
Thank you very much.
So, with this closing monologue, I'd like to say this, please. Tonight's conversation reminds us that community engagement is not just a job, it is a calling. It requires patience, empathy, strategy, and a genuine commitment to people. Nicholas Ivey embodies all of these qualities and more. His work in Stonecrest reflects the power of communication to build trust, strengthen neighborhoods, and create meaningful connections between government and the people it serves. Leaders like him ensure that communities are not just informed, but empowered, not just heard, but valued. Nicholas, thank you for your dedication, your leadership, and your unwavering commitment to public service. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us for another episode of American Black and White, where truth meets culture and community meets purpose. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay committed to building the future we all deserve. Good night to you all, and we will see you all tomorrow